You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
As the music's playing, you know, Maxine Nightingale, you mouth something to me as if, why couldn't you have told me that 20 minutes ago? What did you say to me?
Couldn't you read my lips?
No,
He's got a mask on, Johnny. How would you know he's mouthing anything?
Because I could see the mask going up and down and his eyes got wider and dilated as he was... What did you want to speak to me? What was so
No,
necessary?
it's okay. Is this on? Are we on?
Of course we're on.
Okay, well, it's okay.
Well, it's... Oh,
Well, it's good to see you anyway, Mickey.
Don, episode
Thanks, Don.
39. Now, Don, for a start.
Joseph. They call him Joseph.
Joseph who?
Well, I don't know. Mick, why do they call you Joseph down at Sorrento?
Take your mask off, Don.
I'm not taking it off. You've sneezed and blown your bloody germs from the other side of the table over here.
No, I haven't.
You have, just before we came on air. You haven't even got a mask. You didn't even put your handkerchief to your nose.
Did I detect a note of annoyance in your
Yes.
Don? Settle down.
No.
Yeah, so it's like you're playing for Hawthorn
Yeah,
again.
well, just a minute. We're going to play something.
What are you going to play?
We're
What?
going to play some audio. And Don, can I just say to you, I said to you, has Rod, the man we can't mention, Rod Law, has he spoken to you? And you said, I'm not speaking to him.
Yeah, it gives me the shits.
Don, why aren't you speaking to...
I'm not speaking to anyone at the moment.
No, why not?
Well, then we'll see you next week.
What?
We'll see you next week then.
Yeah, that's right.
Don,
You find out who your friends are in this world at
why-
the moment
just
because whoever rings is concerned about you.
the man we can't mention, Rod
No.
Law, he tells me you haven't spoken to him for a
Yeah, but he
fortnight.
hasn't rung me.
What you
When
like?
Come
did
on,
you
girls.
ring? You did not. No.
You're
Sammy.
a couple of old tarts. Do you think that?
Well, you get on with the
do you think
show.
the common denominator, Don, is you get the shits with me? You won't speak to Rod. You won't speak to
I
bloke.
speak to Jack.
What?
No, Jack, your son.
So you all right? You and Rod? I
No,
don't.
Jack and I are
No,
good.
Rod Law and you.
No.
What was the problem?
I am not speaking to anybody.
What about me, Don?
No, well, you never ring.
Oh.
All you do is send bloody text messages.
I never
could be
ring.
dead. I could be dead.
Your phone's always engaged because you're ringing everyone else.
Now we had three things from last week.
Yeah.
We had terrific response to Diesel Williams,
Who?
didn't we?
I don't know. You're telling us.
Well,
We did.
Don't you ever read any of the comments that people
No,
come
where?
back on the social
Well,
media?
well,
We had terrific comments about Diesel Williams. His
Now, somebody told
Just
me
a minute, Don.
about this Instagram. Were
Just-
really?
No, hang on.
someone
Gee,
told you
really?
about Instagram.
We're posing with
jeez.
our tops off or something, and you're pulling your stomach in.
Someone
Tell
told
me
me
about
about
Instagram.
Instagram.
Can you show me this photograph, Michael?
Apparently the Earth's
Don's-
not flat anymore, Don.
And Don's got a computer at home and runs on coking coal.
What?
You've got to runs on steam. Now, Don, I wanted to know why Mick called him. I didn't pull him up during the podcast. Why do you call him Cheezel? And you, why do you call
Who's
him?
Cheezel?
Well, you kept calling him Cheezel.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because when he, X years ago,
X. Yeah.
his hair started to thin out right on the top of his head, right on the crown.
Oh, don't
and it
tell
looked
me.
like a cheesel, and it was the play on words with diesel and cheesel.
Oh, how childish.
So Jared Healy
How
and I,
puerised. Jared Healy and you. He's Cheezel.
yeah, he's cheesed, yeah.
And
So Jared and I call him
Jared
cheesel.
rang me the other week. What's going on with Jared?
I thought you said no one rang you.
No, months ago he
good
rang
one,
me.
Mick.
Was he
Months
go-
ago.
what would he ring me for? I haven't spoken to him for years
well,
and
if
years.
you answer the phone, he'll tell you.
Yeah.
Would you ever think say hello and then he can tell you why he's rung you?
If you relied on people ringing you because you hadn't spoken to them,
Now-
no one in the whole world would speak to you ever.
That's exactly
Now,
what's
Don.
happening right now.
And so why do they call him Diesel?
Who?
Jared
how many
Healy.
Jared Healy?
Why do they call Diesel Williams Diesel?
I suppose he's slow. He just goes like a tractor.
Oh, is it?
Well,
why
a tractor's not fast. It just ticks
why
over.
wouldn't they call him Petrol?
Because petrol, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what the difference between diesel and petrol is?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
Well, they're fuel.
Yeah,
and
what's
one's
it-
got oil in and the other hasn't.
Rubbish.
One has been refined a little more than the other.
But what's the significant difference between diesel and petrol?
Diesel's not flammable.
Who told you that?
You.
No,
You
it
can
is
throw
very
'em-
good for putting on fires, Diesel.
It puts them out.
No, it doesn't.
Don, you can
I
throw.
use it all the time.
You
when
can
I'm,
throw a match on a.
but you
in a
put
bucket of
diesel
diesel.
on a flame and it'll stimulate it. I use it all the time.
And that's the first thing that we diesel, cheesel.
Yeah.
If you want to now this Don, you
what are you
probably-
looking at the clock for?
Because I tell you what we didn't do last week. You and I both after said there was in both of the papers or the three papers last week there was a thing about Dean Jones who had taken his name, or Victoria Cricket had taken his name off the best player, one-day player. And we wondered,
Well, that was
wondered,
at his behest.
well, it said that, and I thought surely in the article they'll say, and this is why Dean Jones requested it removed.
Yeah.
But no. Wouldn't you think that'd be the first question you would ask?
Yes.
Why? So I thought, well,
Why
I'll
don't-
tell you
why
what I
don't we
thought
get
we'll
him?
do. We'll, if we got his number? Well, you've got it, have you?
You're just
Well-
going to ring him cold.
No, not cool. We've spoken to him.
Oh, have you?
No, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, hang on. Someone has spoken then. Oh, what's going on
I
here?
I rang him last week and couldn't get hold of him. And I
So
was
what are
going-
you doing? Is this a cold call?
It doesn't matter if he doesn't answer. Who cares? But so that was the first thing. And
Why are you why are you threatening to punch
and
me
the
up?
second, and you have a thing on about show the thing about Don. Don is the reason.
Show it.
Well, I know it's on
Look, I was-
video,
yes.
but play the sound over the microphone. This is how Don has managed single-handedly to bring the game into disrepute.
This is the first quarter of the 1979 night grand final, right? And
night grand final.
Well, I think it was a night grand final.
Oh, you're not talking about that out at Waverley.
Yes, and Don
You're
Scott.
telling me there's a night grand final?
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
I-
Yeah, we played in it.
I tell you, if you said for $1 million, there was a night grand final.
Geelong never got past the first.
Only every year, Sam. That's all.
Geelong never got past the first round.
So why do we worry about having the night grand final now and all the chats about it?
No,
was
hang
a
on,
night
John. There were
series.
series.
night
The
series.
day series.
I see. I beg your
And
pardon.
Hawthorn were playing Collingwood.
I see.
And Peter Moore was representing the Magpies at the opening bounce.
And he
a-
won 2 Brownlows by then?
And a lunatic with green gloves on and bellowing and belching on the other side was the Hawthorn captain, Don Scott.
And
And
this
they bounced the ball.
Is this Lou?
And Don Scott actually took him out.
This is Lou Richards
Well, let's
broadcasting.
revisit
We
it.
have to make amends for their shocking performance on last Saturday. So it's back to the centre. Peter Moore against Scott. Scott with the green gloves on. He goes straight for Moore. He's whacked him one. By golly, he's knocked him one. He's
By golly!
right in the eye. And there was noted about that, and I think the umpires reported him. I'm not sure about that
Well,
one. Did
what
you
a
see
stag.
if he reported it or not?
Is this going around?
So many running around down there, but there's no
Rod,
doubt.
turn it off. Don,
I
seriously.
was sent that last night by my son.
Yeah.
What is this doing the rounds?
Yeah,
Well,
tis
two of
now.
us have got it, yeah.
Now, Don, before we canvass that, you've got him on the. You don't tell me he's answered the phone, has he? We'll ring him. This is Dean Jones. Now we're going to see if Dean will answer the phone.
Well, he picked.
Just a minute. I've got to put the headphones on.
Oh, don't know. You could listen.
Samuel?
Oh,
Dean.
Yes.
Now, could I just? We're by law. We have to do this. You're on air. Like we're recording this. So, thanks for taking the call. Now, you might know why I'm ringing, but last week, Mick, Sheahan, and I forgot to mention that you had your name taken off the best one-day player award, and it was in all the papers, and I thought surely as we read down it'll say why, and that didn't. And I thought, well, who better to ask? Mick, didn't we?
Well, morning, Dino. But
Morning, Mick.
there's one correction there, Sammy.
what about introducing the other panelists?
Hello, Uncle Tom. How you
Oh,
doing?
Dean, Uncle Don. I didn't realise.
Ask
we
him
were
where
related.
he is. Let's get all that out of the way. What's he doing and how's his car going and what's his traffic
Well,
like?
we'll just make
Go
him a
on.
little more human.
Well, go on. You ask him all that before we
No, no,
ask
we
him the
don't.
rest.
Set the
Dean, your
record straight.
daughter's still riding horses?
There he goes.
Unfortunately, not, Don. We've got them across the road typically as they go on to other parts of their life, and we had to retire a couple of them. So but we won't put them off to anyone else.
So
They're still our
Anyway,
part of our
So,
family.
Dean, the horses went on another type of life, or did your daughters?
Both.
Is one of the daughters still single?
Yeah, no, they're both hooked up.
Oh, okay.
Don. So there you go. No, all good. But I must say, can I just say, a horse, I never had to feed it or wash it. That was part of the deal, and I think it's just a great way to develop a young kid coming up as a teenager and then competing for Victoria and whatnot. And I think just having a horse part of their life understands it's a huge responsibility, and she's done it beautifully.
So you just drove the big truck around, did you?
No, I didn't even do that. That was part of the deal. I'll buy them, I'll feed them, but you have to do everything. And they did it. They just loved it.
Now, Deano, look, let me move to something trivial.
Well, let's move to what we rang him up for.
Exactly. Now, Sammy, when you introduced Dean, you said that that they had removed his name. My understanding was, Dean, that you requested your name to be removed.
I did say that.
Did I?
Yes.
Correct.
That you requested it. Why so?
So let's start this again. You requested to have your name removed of the best one-day player, Dean, and I thought surely the paper's going to ask you why, or they're going to tell you why, but they didn't. So we're asking you now why.
Well, it's a one-day medal for Victoria, and that's given to the best one-day player for Victoria. And number one, Sam, I haven't been invited to a media event for the last 5 years.
And
that'll be one.
Are you querulous as to why?
Well, I don't know. And number two,
Dean,
I'm a bit concerned of the development of where Victoria are going, even though they've won 4 Sheffield Shields in the last 6 years. Their major priority is to build Australian cricketers and, more importantly, spine players, as you call them in the AFL, the guys who are right down the middle of the spine. And we haven't had one for probably since Warney. We've got one with Finchy, of course, who's captain of Australian one days and that. So it got to a stage where I just thought, well, I don't like some of the things that are going on, and they don't respect their past players.
You've got the
Deano,
shits with them.
Yeah, Dean, was it in fact, though, that you had been passed over for the coaching job at the 2 Victorian one-day teams?
Oh, that'll be 10% of it, probably, Mike. If this was an AFL, let's quickly, say this was Hawthorn, right? We had for the Stars, we had one person, and nothing against David Hussey, who's on the board. Can you imagine a person on the board of the Hawthorn Football Club? They pick a committee to pick their coach, the head coach, and then the very last minute, David Hussey resigns and gets the job. Could you imagine that if that happened in AFL?
Well, it did happen at AFL. What's his name? Grant.
Yeah.
Thomas. Grant Thomas.
What's his name? Grant Thomas.
Grant Thomas did exactly the same. Well, my memory's going.
Oh, Grant
St Kilda,
Hackett.
he was on the board, and next minute he finishes up as coach of the team.
Yeah, and the same with the Melbourne Renegades. They picked Michael Klinger, who's a lovely bloke as well. But the fact is, what I've been antsy about is the fact that they're picking people to get these major blue chip jobs before these people go in to learn how it takes to be a specialist coach like David Saker and Andrew McDonald and all these other
And
guys
Dean
in
Jones.
Victorian cricket. Well, I've gone overseas. We've got and they had the number one Trevor Bayliss, the number one head coach in the world, and they didn't even look at him either.
So Dean, you've got the shits with them.
But yeah.
Right. And could you just tell us why would you think they haven't asked you to a official function for 5 years? You mentioned, I think, earlier. What would that be?
I don't think they look at their past, Sam. Look, you look on the website, that doesn't mention any past players or Australian players or Australian teams, Victorian teams.
If they're going to make you the one day named after you as the one day recipient of the trophy, surely they wouldn't have forgotten you.
Well, it's a bit like this. I have to say, boys, straight away, Cricket Victoria has got a massive problem, and it's called AFL. And 60% of the guys drafted all come from Victoria. They pick our best kids, our best cricketers. And we've got a huge problem from the age of 16 to 20 years of age, whereby these kids, and rightly so, prefer to play footy. And I don't think they use our resources to maybe speak to a kid, let's call him Johnny Smith and his mum and dad at the age of 16, 17, and bring a Shane Warne or a Merv Hughes or a Brad Hydes, a Dean Jones, Simon O'Donnell, whatever, over to the house and try to spruik and say, you need to become a cricketer because we believe you can become one of the best cricketers. But unfortunately, AFL is picking and pinching our best kids. And it's hurting every other sport because of the dominance and influence of AFL.
But the kids love that's the kids' preference, isn't it, Dean?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
It is.
See, Will Sutherland chose cricket, didn't he?
He did.
And
he did.
Over
But
football.
We got to sell it though, Mike. We got to sell that the cricket's very good to play. You know, our first-class players are all getting over $200,000 now.
But there's very few of them actually play, Dean. You've only got 11 in a team, whereas in football you've got, 22 players.
Yeah, you're right.
That was good from Don.
Yep. Just off the top of your head, Don.
Spot on, Don. But the fact is, if you got a superstar who could be really good, who could be super, he could earn up to $2.5, $3, $4, $5 million a year. And he turns left on planes instead of turning right, and they'll have the wonderful opportunity. Now we'll never know. See, New South Wales doesn't have this problem because none of the kids, I'll be honest, the Australian kids don't want to play NRL because they're up against the Tongans and the Fijians and all. They smack the living daylights out of you.
Especially when they're young, Dean, and that's a real problem
Correct.
that they've got in their side because the Islanders mature physically much earlier than what the Caucasian or the Australians do.
Sorry, Don.
Spot on, Don. But how do we know that a Pat Cummins could have been playing centre half back for Collingwood, or Steve Smith could have been an on-baller for Richmond? We don't know that.
Okay, what about players that are playing AFL right now that could have played cricket?
Look, I couldn't tell you, but there's been plenty of guys that have gone through.
Been dozens and dozens, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get?
But the problem is, you're. I don't know why it's fair, but your people in the AFL believe it's not good for other kids, for your potential superstars of AFL that need to play other sports while they're developing as a kid. But they shut them out.
Did you
So
get? Go ahead.
Sorry, Sam.
No. We want to hear from you, not me. What did you keep?
Yeah. So they could play cricket, they could play ball golf, they could play all these other things while they're doing their practice during the summer, not interfering with their football practice and develop it there. But they completely stop these kids from playing other sports.
Now, Don, did you get this? Did you get the aside that Dean just made that when they get on the plane they turn left instead of right? Did you understand that?
I didn't listen, John.
Oh, you didn't listen to it.
Well, what's that?
Well, how
what are your
insulting
ears
is that?
painted
Because
on,
I'm
Don?
forming my next question to Dean.
What
Yes.
about if he said something totally outlandish? Then would you just would have missed it?
I would have relied on you two to pick that up.
So you got the headphones on, you're not listening.
No, I'm forming.
Well, what do
my
you think
next
he
question.
meant when you said when you get on the plane you turn left instead of right? What do you
Dean,
think?
do you think you fall into the category where now we've had 3 other people come on
It's
who are very forthright like yourself, been very successful in their sport, yet are unable to go any further with regard to imparting their knowledge. I'll mention 3 of them, or the 3.
Oh.
Shane Warne, Pat Cash, and last week Greg Williams. All very good at this sport, very knowledgeable, but because they are forthright, they upset the hierarchy and they are deemed as a threat. Do you put yourself in that category?
Oh, probably. I really do. Like Warne is amazing when he teaches young kids and his knowledge of the game. They teach the 1%ers are teaching already skilled kids to go to the next level is amazing. I listened to Greg Williams, a terrific interview, and talking about the teaching of skills, how to kick the ball and the handball, etc. My major point and the biggest thing I've learnt, I think, is that when I actually turned pro as a golfer 7-8 years ago, was the biggest lesson I learned was actually go to the Institute of Sport and learn how to teach a skill from, because I think the golf pros are outstanding in that compared to our cricket coaches. Our cricket coaches feel that they come out of retire and they think they know all the game, but they have no idea of A, to assess the problem, B, find the actual fix, and then be able to sell that and do the drills properly to help that person to become a better player.
So,
We're way behind on that.
Are you on the seniors pro tour?
No, I gave that away 6 or 7 years ago.
7 years
Sam,
ago?
because
Why?
Yeah, 7 years ago, because I was the assistant coach for the Australian team, and then I got all these offers to go overseas, and I'll make my money overseas now.
So you're coaching in the IPL?
No, I coach in the Pakistan Super League, which is the second best league probably in the world. Yeah.
Dino, so I just want to take you back to why we originally wanted to speak to you about this.
Yes.
And Sam has got you to confirm that you are pissed off about it. But the part that struck me as petulant and it's going to hurt you is you gave your life membership back. Now, I can't understand why you would do that. I mean, you're a life member of Cricket Victoria for your services to the game and to Victoria. Why would you then decide to give that back?
Well, that's my only currency. They don't listen. They don't. How else will I actually try to make my point?
Well, removing your name off the best player list would be a good start, Dean.
Well, you wouldn't even know where it is, that list, because it's not on the website or anywhere in Cricket Victoria.
Well, it's a good question, Mick, and I'm not sure that's a good answer, Dean.
No, I think, we'll get onto this later about Don and Don's petulance
Yes.
in relation to Hawthorn, and he won't accept the legend status. And I think sometimes Don particularly, and maybe you, have, because you're angry, have sort of taken a snap.
Cut your nose off.
Well, yeah, you might have done that. I mean, you deserve to be a life member of this organisation, and you were, and now you've relinquished that.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm not. I've never been frightened to have an opinion or try to. Or back
that
up
is your problem, Dean.
But nothing wrong with having an opinion.
I
as long
know,
as you
mate,
offer
but you upset the
solution.
establishment.
Look,
Well,
have
you
a
know
listen
what
who's talking. This is extraordinary, Don.
I realise I upset people.
Well, you won't accept a legend status. What are you berating
But
him for?
the thing, Dean, is that you are appreciated out of your inner circle or out of the circle overseas in
Out of the inner
Pakistan.
sanctum, yeah.
And
I agree.
they recognise what you've done, and they're not influenced by what's happening here.
So I could say this about you and Don, Dean, is that maybe it's a good legacy for your offspring, your
Yes.
children, your family, your descendants who in years gone by, many years, generations will look back and say, my dear old dad, my dear old grandpa, my uncle, he was a legend, not a legend, a life member of Cricket Australia or Cricket Victoria. Dean.
Well, I'm a member of the Hall of Fame of Cricket Australia.
We'll give that
still
back
okay.
to really drive home the point.
Hey, Dino,
Only the Victorian one I've knocked back, Sam. That's all right.
Dino, have you fallen out with Sean Graff, who you would have played a lot of cricket with?
Not really. No,
Not
I haven't
really?
spoken to him for yonks. I haven't spoken. It's funny. Once I fired a couple of shots across their bow, I only heard from Andrew Ingleton yesterday. I think it was the CEO of Cricket Victoria. I got phone calls from the chairman of Australia, the CEO, all that type of stuff. So that was nice of them. But I never heard from Cricket Victoria until yesterday. So we had a couple of hour talk, and we sort of sorted each other's things out. Solutions. He fired a couple of shots across my bow, which is understandable.
What were they?
I think I made my point.
What were they?
I'm not going to go into confidential stuff that what was being spoken, but
Do they think you're too brash, you're too outspoken?
well, I tell you, they read my articles with interest when I mention Cricket Victoria. That's for sure. In the Age, etc. Yeah.
Well,
And they should.
I'm not there to be a detractor. I'm allowed to be critical,
Yep.
but I also try and give a solution to their problems. And culture and understanding your past and looking after past players and trying to promote Australian cricketers, they haven't done that.
No, and I agree with your point about that. There's not enough reverence, if you want to use that word, attached to the people who have gone before and made the game what it
Reverence
is.
in what way? How should they be revered?
We should
what he said.
honour the people who have gone
In what
before
way?
and made the game what it is.
In what way
well,
would
just
you
as
honour
made
them?
the game what it is, he
No,
said.
you're just
Shut up.
Just
Thank
acknowledge
you.
them.
Shut up, John.
In what way would you acknowledge them,
Well,
Michael?
Deano said that he has had no contact and no invitations to any of those functions. That's not a big deal in the overall context, but it's important to the individual that the organisation that he gave 15 or 20 years to is prepared to say, yes, we know
Yes,
what
but
you've
I
done.
think Dean wants more recognition or more input into the running of cricket in Victoria. Would that be right, Dean?
No, not really, Don, because I'm too busy overseas. We had a 10-year anniversary for a Shield win just recently, and Bob Quiney, one of the players of it, had to ring all the players up and meet them at a pub. They're not invited to.
Oh, I see what
Yes,
you're
Donald.
Yeah.
We're
No,
not
I
invited
agree.
to any of this stuff. You see.
So they tried to make you a legend, Don, and you just don't want to be part
Yes,
of it?
but when we have a function, everybody turns up and
Correct.
Because
yes,
it's organised.
I can
Well,
appreciate.
yeah, it's all
I can
done well.
appreciate that.
Well,
yes.
Dean, thank you. We have cleared up what we originally wanted to speak to you about, and we are very delighted that you took the call, and you are a forthright man, and for God's sake, don't ever stop being forthright, because otherwise it becomes beige
Yes, it does,
and
but-
bland,
but
the
just for-
media landscape.
From us three, he is a genuine legend of Australian cricket, this bloke.
I've got nothing but admiration for your innings in India. I just thought that is just a highlight of the sporting.
And one of the highlights of this interview, Don, was, and I'm being serious, was your analogy about Williams, Cash and Warne. That was, and I can understand why you weren't listening to Dean while you were fashioning that question up in your little brain, writing it down. When I said, do you know what turning left on the plane means instead of right? And you said, I wasn't listening because I was thinking of that question. So well done, Don.
Dean, well
Dean,
done in India too. I know it's a long time
Yeah.
ago, but you've certainly got my admiration.
And because we know everything about everything, Deano, I think that you should say to Cricket Victoria that you might actually want to remain a life member.
No.
Well, we'll see what happens down the track. But the bottom line is,
Or,
again,
or, Dean, you could say, get fucked, rude letter following.
Are you your father, Dean?
sorry?
Are you your father?
Probably. Well, geez, I remember as a boy, because my dad was captain coach for Carlton for 20 years. And
Barney,
the fights
yep.
with him and Barassi, him and Barassi used to have over. Barassi used to try to pinch the ground before, and because the Carlton boys were in finals, and it was just didn't work. And seeing my dad nose to nose with Ron Barassi saying "get off the ground" and all that type of stuff,
Wow.
it was really
Jeez.
cool. And Dad played over 200 games for Coburg. And he played against Peter Box in the Carnival, I think, and he beat him. I think he was best on ground against the VFL in 1956. So, Dad had a really good background in footy, but did his shoulder, sadly, ended up had to play cricket, and that's basically just going down to Carlton all the time and watching. And there was a great relationship with the Carlton Football Club, with the Carlton Cricket Club there. They always used to come and watch each other play. It was really cool.
Hey, Dino,
Really
isn't it
cool.
funny? Isn't it funny that you said that your dad was injured and had to give up football to play cricket? And we've had that discussion before about why football prevails when kids make their decision about their sporting future. Because most kids think football is a more appealing game. If you consider Mark
In
Murphy, Jonathan Brown,
in Victoria.
no, Stephen Cornelius, another one.
Nationally.
No. Dean made a relevant point. In New South Wales, Queensland, and whatever else, AFL doesn't dominate like it does in Victoria.
Yeah, but GWS and the Swans have got kids from over Australia who were very good cricketers and chose football.
Mick, you're not saying that to be an international test cricketer for Australia is not as important or as sexy as being a top AFL
Well, I'll
player,
tell you,
are
I'll give you those names of Brown, Ball, Hodge, Mark
Yes.
Murphy, all those blokes. They're outstanding cricketers and they chose football.
Well, Shane Warne was an outstanding football, very good football, and chose cricket. And now
Too
where
lazy.
does
No,
he?
he was lazy.
He told you and I, Sammy, at the golf course about 2 months ago,
He loved football.
his preference
better
was
than anything.
football.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
Me too.
You too.
I was the same. Yeah, I just had to be better at cricket. But the fact is, the kids, this is where T20 cricket really start to play. When I watch guys play T20 cricket, when they get a wicket, they carry on like they've just won Tats Lotto. And then the footy is so much, they kick a goal and they carry on a lot more now. But you don't see that so much in playing an ODI match or playing in a Test match. And I think the players enjoy now. The kids enjoy playing more T20 cricket than all the other forms of the game. And that's an area I think we've got to sell. It comes down to what the kid wants to do.
Well,
So that's why I think AFL, where number one, you become an AFL footballer at the 18 years of age, 19, you get a half-decent contract, you get a drink card at the nightclub, you're in the media, you've got opportunities. It's just a lot more fun. I can understand it.
Well, Dean, now we're going to have another crack at winding this up. We rang you for just an answer on why you took your name off the list, and we've been enlightened by this chat. So thank you very much, for taking the call and being part of it.
Yeah, thanks, Deano.
And stay yourself,
Nice
Dean.
talking to
Stay
you,
true
boys.
to
We'll catch up
yourself.
Thank
Thank you very
Reverend.
much, Don. We'll catch up soon.
Right.
Thanks, boys.
Now, Mick.
Yeah.
What the other thing that was very interesting and well done about the life membership. We would have been annoyed if we hadn't asked him that as well, or if you hadn't. We were also last week very good on the money with George Pell, who I notice your great friend and companion and a man who's been on this show, Andrew Bolt, is interviewing him tonight.
7 o'clock on Sky, yes.
And
Excuse me, well, I don't... Is Pell going on the Andrew Bolt show tonight?
Yep.
He's being it's been recorded, obviously.
It's been done. Yep.
He's interviewed him because he was a staunch supporter of
I
the
understand.
justice
I
case, not
understand.
the fact that anything to do with Pell and his association with what the church has been doing. But he said, and as we said from day one, that there's no way you could convict a man on these charges or a person on these charges if you're being objective. But, of course, everyone was being subjective because of the stain and stigma about the religious side of the church. Well, what other side would there be?
Yeah, the interesting thing about that is I will watch that just because I think probably as a journo and
Mick?
Yeah, probably. Will you too? Will I?
What, a Catholic, you mean?
Yeah, Mick.
Yeah,
Will either of
that's
you?
right. I thought you were addressing his name.
Will either or both of you watch it?
I will, because I
I
like...
haven't got Foxtel.
Oh. Will you go over the road to Jenna's place and watch it
No,
over
I'm
there?
in isolation.
Oh, yeah, you are too.
Why have you got your mask? I've given you the mask and you got it around your bloody chin. Put it over your mouth.
And the joint fogged up.
So the natives are circling because people aren't accepting the conviction being quashed, because I'm just reading this off the teleprompter here. It says freed George Pell faces new abuse claims days after being acquitted. So it's going to be an ongoing rolling stock of things that they can try and malign him for, and they may well. But on this specific case, it was impossible, in my opinion, to convict him, which turned out to be correct.
Well, the High Court found your view to be their view.
Andrew Rule came up with the most practical piece of evidence when he did that diagram in his column where he went down and actually timed the amount of time it'd take for Pell to walk from the front door around to the back of the church, and it just was impractical.
That's right, and
for
to
him
have
to do
the
it.
cassock or the cossack or a cassock removed and the boy to get in
I'd be
there
very
and do oral sex.
If I was Pell, I'd be
to
very
do oral sex with him, they said.
Righto.
If I was
Well,
Pell,
it'd be hard to put your head under the cossack or cassock. What's it called?
It's a cassock, I
A
think.
cassock.
Yeah.
It'd be hard for the two kids
The
to put
cossacks
their
are
head under
warriors,
his
aren't they?
cassock. Hard to put their head under the cassock. I mean, seriously, Don. It just
So you've interrupted me to tell us this little bit of shit, you two.
What?
I came up with something that I said that Pell should be very critical of his defensive team, because it was Andrew Rule came up with a very practical piece of evidence, and why didn't his own attorneys, Pell's attorneys, come up with the same thing?
What another very good point, Don.
Yeah.
Thanks, Johnny.
I wasn't actually... Yeah. I reckon because you got the mask on, all your brain power is going into your mouth and then going straight up your hooter into your brain. That's why it's not going out into the ether.
Anyway, you're sitting on yours.
Do you think... can I address this to
Who,
him?
Joseph?
I'm Joseph.
He's
That's
Joseph.
right,
Do you
Joseph,
think
sorry.
the decision originally of 12 good men and true finding him guilty...
Women?
Well, they said proverbially.
No, don't be proverbial, because we can't have mankind now, Mick.
My view about that is that they were so angry with the church and Pell generally
there is
that
no
they
doubt.
said this is the way we get him, even if we can't actually
He
prove.
became the whipping boy and the scapegoat for the sins of the church. There is no doubt of that.
Yeah, but,
And
he,
also
but he's culpable too.
Yeah, but the case was publicised
Yes.
before it actually went to court.
Yes, Mick,
so
it was.
people were influenced before they even selected the jury.
Quite correct, Donald.
Look, he should have gone to jail for turning a blind eye to the.
Why should you have go to jail for that? What, as an accessory?
He allowed this stuff to happen.
Yeah, but what are you charged with, Mick?
Complicity.
Yep.
But
What,
yes.
Is that a charge?
Well, but maybe, but don't bring a charge that you can be shot down by and I take your point, Don, by a smart and astute defence lawyer that can be shot down.
Right, but he had Robert Richter. You don't get him any smarter or more astute than that.
Well,
I
why
think
didn't
Robert
Bobby-
Richter might have been a little bit at fault too if he
Yeah.
didn't bring up what Andrew Rule
why
brought
didn't
up.
Why didn't Bob Richter go
Yeah.
around with a tape measure
Yeah.
and have a
And
look
a
at the cassock
stopwatch.
and check the cassock out, how heavy it was to lift?
Too academic.
part.
To part? No, that's the point. They said they parted. I believe it didn't have a opening. It was like a dress.
Okay.
Oh, move on, please.
What, Don? Don't be,
Okay.
now, Don. Just
Stop
tell
being
me,
grumpy, Don, will you?
Tell me if I'm the only person. Are you? How many times can you turn the television on, particularly overseas news, and watch 24/7 them chatting about coronavirus? It goes on and on. They've brought up more experts and more people with an opinion, more nurses and doctors and public people. Do you think it's oversaturated? And if we cross to one more person for an interview who is isolated, in the background they've got all their shelves full of books, you know.
What about that?
Archimedes' principle and the laws of gravity showing that. What about Hugh Hefner's Playboy Bunnies or Buttfuckers 3 or something in the background? That'd give them
What is what?
Buttfuckers.
I
Well,
knew-
what are they?
Well, it's a sexual book.
Yep.
They've
What?
got all
Have
these
you got
books
one?
in the background.
Is that something
I've got
like
the
that
series, Mick. They've got all these books in the background showing, oh, yes, this is what I do after hours. I read this, Archimedes' principle and the laws
Yeah.
of gravity.
You're
and
right. Bookshelves are a status symbol now.
The status symbol.
And you know, when we watch these experts, I'm always looking, do I know that book? Do I know that author?
Wouldn't you have liked to seen Hef's Playboy?
A couple of Enid Blytons there.
That's right, Piglet and Pooh Bear.
What about that member we've got it down our way called Greg Hunt? He shows he's connected to the people.
What did you call
Oh,
him?
they'll do.
Greg Hunt
Yeah.
Oh, Greg Hunt.
Yeah.
doing his cross to his electoral office in Somerville
Yeah.
to show that he is a man of the people.
Jeez, it was a modest office too, wasn't it?
Oh, God.
Eh?
Has he mucked up in some of his interviews, by the way?
Has he?
Well, he has.
Okay.
Okay, so now just...
Well,
so
you're
it's
obviously
got-
not looking, Mickey.
So it's gone overboard, Mick. I see a woman who was pulled up by the police because she drove to a recreation area in her gym gear and was starting to do her 6 kilometre jog, and the police pulled her up and said, find her for driving to
A park.
a park to do some exercise. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of those cases, Johnny, so move on.
Well, sorry, Don. Okay,
Yeah.
what's your next topic?
Well, the fact is...
$1,600 for that.
No, Don says let's move
listen,
on.
That would have
give her
Don
a
would have been
refund.
insolvent if he got that fine.
I'm not moving anywhere. I'm walking around the farm working.
Don, sorry to have brought that up. That was ridiculous about the woman getting
But
fined.
there's so many ridiculous fines.
Well,
John.
bring up something you're interested in. Crickets, please, quick. You dumbass. Now, I noticed. Give us your opinion on this, Don. You give him honestly. Give us your
It's
opinion.
nice to see him
Simon.
laugh, isn't it?
Don.
How can you know I'm laughing? Got the
Don,
mask on.
Don, because your eyes squint.
God, we ought to take a photo of you with the
Don.
thing around your chin.
Don.
What an idiot, Michael. Put it up around your mouth.
Now, boys, I see there's another push.
Goes
Now,
over
wait
your
for
nose
this.
too.
There's another push to reduce the speed limit in the city and surrounding suburbs to 40k.
Yep.
I am telling you, Don, this is nothing more than a revenue-raising exercise. It's impossible to drive a car at 40k. It doesn't detract from the road toll, running over pedestrians, killing people. It is absolute bullshit, and I don't care what statistics Vic Roads or the traffic authorities or the government bring up. It is a tax hike to get people to pay money to
Well, we've got to fund.
fill the coffers up.
Well, we've got to fund all this
why do
money
we
that
put up
they're
with it?
handing out to people. So
Why do
it's
we
going to be
put up with it?
self-funded.
40K,
self-funded.
Mick.
But you drive at 40k on the freeway. Why would you be concerned?
No,
What?
I'm a bit like Jared Healy. Jared got pulled up for driving too slowly on the right-hand lane on the freeway on Eastlink.
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
You shouldn't be in the right-hand lane.
That's why he got pulled
Yeah,
up, Mick.
okay.
Yeah, he should be fine.
Hey, before you,
Well, he was.
Well, that's
Sam,
good.
Don, before we leave the coronavirus, I've had as much of it as anyone else, but who's going to pay the price for the 18 deaths on the Ruby Princess and the dislocation to health in New South Wales?
No one, it'll be swept under the...
How can you do that?
Because someone will be shown to have been inadequate and incompetent, and they'll all duck shove
But
and push it off.
if you watch the original interview, there was a chap, I think, from Border Force with a black uniform with yellow epaulets on, not taking the blame, passing it on to another department, a government department. It was disgraceful. The original interview, Michael, going back weeks, was a disgrace.
Well, but someone is culpable in this, aren't they?
Absolutely.
18 are dead off the boat.
It's incompetence in the extreme. Or it's
Yeah.
not exercising correct power over your portfolio.
I tell you, someone will pay for it.
Now, Don, I'm getting a bit nervous because we have one of the most sought-after guests coming on. And when we put this on, download this or upload this, we will play this Sam, Mike and Don first, and then our special guest will come on second, or else we will have preempted what I'm just speaking about. I'm not mentioning who's coming on, but if you've ever listened to a podcast and a guest that we've had on,
Let me
make
ask you
sure
this.
you listen to this.
If he's that appealing,
Is it a he?
if he's that appealing,
Is it a he?
why wouldn't we use it as? Why wouldn't we advertise it? Why do we make it a mystery?
Well,
We will advertise
this is a promo.
it. We will. Thank you, Don. We will advertise it on the promo because
But
we do that on our social media
Johnny,
platforms.
when this is put out, don't be stupid. The people go straight to it anyway. They won't listen
Yeah.
to this first part. They'll listen to the second part.
well, we
So
might
why
hold
are you
it
doing
over.
a promo? It's not.
Well,
we're
I'll
not
tell
on
you what.
television or
Well,
radio
we'll fuck
prompting.
them up, Donald. What
Well,
we'll
just
do,
say who it's going to be.
I tell you
Yeah,
what. No,
exactly.
we won't. No, I tell you what we'll do, Don.
What?
If you think they're going to outsmart us, we won't put the interview of this special person coming in on till tomorrow.
Why?
Wow.
Well, so they'll have to listen to this one first if they want to.
Well, they will anyway because it's so good.
Well, you said that they'd go straight to the second part first.
Well, they will because it'll be better than this one.
Is the
and
fact
this will
that Don Scott's got boxing gloves on, is that a pointer to who's coming in?
I don't. You've got a mouth guard.
No, I
and a
use
nose.
boxing gloves for other reasons, Mickey.
What
Well, all sportsmen wear boxing gloves
what
Do
would
they
you,
really?
what would you be wearing?
prior to their event.
What do you wear
Do
them
they?
now for, Donald? Not so it stops you tampering with yourself or anything, is it?
Thank you. I believe Johnny Famishon used to sleep with cotton reels on his back.
I beg pardon?
Cotton reels.
Yes.
Is this a joke?
No.
Don, your humour's outmatched. What does that mean? He used to sleep with cotton reels on his back because to stitch himself up?
No, prior to a fight.
Well,
So he wouldn't dream.
So he wouldn't-
So he wouldn't dream. Gee. This is becoming more obscure by the week, this.
Don, please. Mate, you haven't been eating some of the horse chaff down there, have you? What do you want? You haven't got a crack house next to you down there. Where are you at the minute? You got anyone looking after you? I'm worried about you.
Hey, are we finished with this, are we?
No, we're not.
Why? What are we going to fill it up with
I'm
now?
gonna, I want to ask you about...
Give us a subject, Don.
I'll give you one.
Okay.
Hang on.
Okay, now I'm very critical of the media.
Yeah.
They release a story but don't follow it up and give us a result of what's happened. Now, we've done this podcast for over 6 months now, and two big stories were the Menindee Lakes. Do you remember the fish dying? And it was a hue and outcry about all these fish dying in the Darling River.
Yeah.
And then there was
It's
a horse...
got no water in it.
Yeah, that's right. And the other one was the horse industry, the Melbourne Cup,
Yep.
the expose by the ABC.
Yep.
What has the racing industry done since? They said they were going to put money in, but the slaughter of horses still goes on.
No, there is money being put in.
Yeah, but what are they doing with it, Michael? We don't know what they're doing with it. And let me tell you, the slaughter of animals is still, or horses is
What's
still going on.
unabated. It's,
I
is it?
was told, thank Don, very good follow-up question about the media. I was told to bring in a list of things because every silly bastard and his dog have got on to making lists about who's the best player, who's the best side. I see Wayne started this off, and now we've got people.
No, there's been lists of it. They've been doing them for
You
months.
started it, Michael.
I did.
Yeah,
but that was a one-a-year thing.
So what about we have a crack at some lists?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been in any lists so far?
I don't know because I don't read them, but I know I wasn't in Wayne's list.
No.
Because that wasn't the modern era.
He
of course.
ruled you out as a fraction old at 73.
That's right.
Yeah?
So here's a couple of lists
Right.
that we could canvass, maybe if we had time. The worst TV shows, the most insignificant people to play in a grand final or to play in a premiership. This is football. The most unattractive looking people in the business, the media. And of course, we can name quite a number of men, but as soon as you nominate a woman, you'll be ripped a new one.
Yes.
Those who are the worst farters you know in public, and does that annoy you?
Yeah, of course it does.
Well, I've been out at dinner parties and I've been at functions and in aeroplanes when people lift the side of their ass up and go whack. And out
You're not bad in the car when you pull up at the lights.
Don, I have never ever, don't you ever start that with me, I've never
I'm
farted
quoting
I've never...
in public, I said in the car by yourself at the traffic lights.
Well, how would you know that?
You told me.
Oh, you imbecile, Don. I've never farted in public.
You farted so hard one day you told me that you're incontinent after that operation that you had, that you pissed your pants.
I said I've never farted involuntarily or deliberately.
You did. You said at the traffic lights.
How do you know? You can't control it if it's involuntary.
Well,
that's right. If you've had the operation.
I didn't think he'd pick that up. What? Now, Don, do you just ask me? I'll ask you a simple question. I can give you 3 examples.
The funny thing was,
I'll give you 3 examples of people.
The funny thing was, we're having a talk. What could we do for prostate cancer?
Prostate.
There was Newman, David Parker, and myself. So he's got up. John's got up and told the story. The only time we're talking after the, about our.
It's a private conversation.
Yeah, that's right. And our incontinence.
Let it go, why don't you?
Yeah, our incontinence. And David's saying, he does his pelvic floor exercise and all the rest. And John says, well, the only time I'm incontinent is when I pull up the lights in my car. When you pull up the lights and you want to fart. And he said, that's when I pissed myself. David thought it was so funny.
Well, he wrote a book.
David urinated in his pants himself and had to go home.
That's why I never wear light-coloured pants.
That's what David said.
Have you had your prostate out?
No, but I've got a...
so you just piss normally, do you? Just involuntarily?
Wait a sec. You asked a question.
I did.
But you don't have to have your prostate out to have pressure on your urethra. Whatever it is, and it makes you want to. Sometimes I can go from. I hate talking about bodily functions.
Exactly, that's just
that's a fact of life. So tell us.
Not in public, it's not, Donald.
What?
I tell you, I was on a plane coming back from
it should be exposed.
Rafter.
Just be quiet. It should be exposed and talked about in public. I wouldn't have had that operation and knew nothing. It was like you didn't tell me anything of the consequences before I had that operation.
What operation?
On the prostate.
The prostate, Donald.
Prostate.
For God's sake, put an R in it.
Okay, prostate. And I had to work it out myself.
Did you have the robot or did you have
I had the robotic?
Yeah, okay. What did you have, Sammy?
Robot.
Robotic.
Robot, yes.
Yeah.
I'm coming home. I'm telling you this now. I'm coming home from a golf day down at Barnbougle that Pat Rafter put on.
Sorry, where's that?
It's in South Africa, Don.
Barnbougle?
It's a golf resort down in Tasmania. And we're on the plane, a privately chartered plane. And that wasn't privately chartered, wasn't at all. And the 20 people who'd played in the tournament, and I'm sitting next to, and I quite can't think of his name, but his 3 brothers play for the Rabbitohs and they're stars.
Ella, is it?
No, the English fellow.
Yes, that's it.
The English.
Burgesses.
Burgesses.
One of the Burgesses, who's a very nice man, he'd had a huge night out on the Terps and was fly blown after the tournament.
blown?
And we're sitting up, we'd turn left on the plane, Don, we're sitting up the sharp end. And he sat there.
What were you talking about?
I'm talking about this man who broke wind, and Mr. Burgess. And I'm sitting next to him, and suddenly, I don't think he even realised he'd half dozed off. He let a rip virtuosity wind-breaking, it nearly was like if you'd been where Hiroshima was, it was about the same sound. And the aroma was extra. It seared my hair, my eyelids, my nose started to bleed. It was the most extraordinary aroma and odour I've ever smelt. And because the air circulates, it swafted down the back of the plane. There were 40 people gagging on the plane until the pilot had to come on and say, ladies and gentlemen, we're sorry, the latrines haven't malfunctioned. We believe there's an odour escape from one of the passengers. Please relax. It'll be gone shortly. We'll turn the air conditioning up. It was horrendous. It took me a day to stop my nose bleeding.
And I bet you didn't say anything to him because he's such a big man.
You absolutely... No, of course I did. I said, geez, what's his name?
There's three of them.
Yeah, there's three of them.
Anyway...
he was a very nice man. I said,
you might be wrong.
Holy mackerel, mate. He said, I'm sorry about that. Sorry. It blew the back of his tweeds out. It did. It was unbelievable. So don't tell me. So there's my number one.
Number one what?
Number two would be Rex Hunt. Rex broke wind in the box with Ron Barassi and I out at the MCG, and he did it once. And I said, Rex, please don't break wind in public. He said, sorry about that, Sam. And he's calling, and the ball comes down and bang out. I said, Rex. He said, sorry about that, Sam. And he goes down a long run, a roller. He kicks it down. Once again, it could be Rex now.
He rang me yesterday, Rex.
We had to. Rex called for the next 5 minutes on his own. Ron and I walked out the back of the Ron Casey Media Centre.
Yeah,
Ron Carter. So that's number two. Number three. No, I can't tell you number three.
No. Do you enjoy talking about bodily functions?
No, not. No. This is my point, Mick. It is so ill.
Yeah.
Ill-bred you have to be to fart.
I'm talking about ill-breeding.
Fatty Vorton broke wind. Fatty Vorton broke wind in Bill Ferg's Lobster Cave. Yeah. He came down to play golf, and Bill closed one of the sections down until the aroma dissipated.
Now, talking about bad manners, have you seen... Now, I have a theory about why the Chinese agitate so many Australians, right?
Agitate?
Yes.
Irritate or agitate?
Well, both.
Agitate.
You see
I'll let you get away with that.
Okay, the footage from the Big W in Sydney of the people lining up and accumulating tins of baby formula.
Yep.
Huh?
Oh, yes.
And then wanting to have a fight over it.
That's
because
right.
they're pigs and they go in and they take 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 tins.
Yep.
And someone finally calls them on it and then they want to fight.
That's right.
Now, the Chinese in Australia are their own worst enemies. I know they're not all bad. I understand that. But lots of the things that we see are real mannered, and a lot of them
But don't you think all immigrants leave a lot to be desired because they're... well, they are. They're disgruntled. Excuse me, let me finish, will you? And I go back 40 years in the union movement. They're all disgruntled. So they're not happy in their homeland. And so they immigrate. And they come, say, to Australia. Now, the union movement back in the 40-odd years ago was made up of English people, Pommies and bloody Scotchmen and Irishmen, all disgruntled, come over here and vent their spleen in the union movement. It was very volatile back 40-odd years ago. And it's the same with the Chinese. If they were happy, or any immigrant was happy where they were, they wouldn't come to a new country and try and start a new life. They've got a problem in themselves.
What about if they're just selfish?
They are. They're all of those things, Michael.
Generally bad-mannered, Donald.
All of those things,
they
John.
They come from a culture.
No, John. That's in their makeup. And
that's
if you go overseas,
that's their culture.
And if you judge the English, it wasn't until I went across there, you judge them when they're here in Australia, you think, yeah, disgruntled up. But until you go across there and actually mix with them, they're very, very nice people. And
so,
the disgruntled ones come to Australia.
Okay, so...
Well, have you stumbled across something in the paper?
No, he's not even giving.
Of course I am.
Come on, can't you think and read at the same time? Please, Johnny.
Can't you read?
Okay. I'm not sure if I should bring this up, but I will, so you can canvass it. There is plans about a high-powered. Is that what I'm? High-powered meeting this week that could decide the immediate future of a radio station. Stay tuned, no pun intended. Now, with this is about a radio station.
Well, that was in the Score, Scotty Gullen's column in the Herald Sun yesterday.
What a man Scotland is.
He's a good man,
Yeah,
Scotty.
I just said what a man he is. And Scotland's broken this news and probably be in the tissues tomorrow. But it's speculation about what station it is that possibly is insolvent or about to bite the dust. Would it be 3AW? The highest rating station in the world?
Well, come on, you boys.
You can have 33 to 1 about 3AW.
Don't sit there like dummies. You blokes know.
God strikes my kids down. Mind you, I'm not that fond of them. But as God strikes my kids down, Donald, I don't know who he is speaking about, but do you think you would know if you had to make a guess? A high-powered radio station about to be questioned about its longevity. Who do you think that would be?
Well,
Which one?
I think, Michael, it might be the station that you used to work
Smooth FM or
No, I think Donald. Well, if I had to guess, Don, I would
ABC?
agree with you that it sounds very much like SEN to me.
oh.
It's interesting, isn't it? I wonder whether this would have come around if the virus wasn't about, but there's a lot of people and businesses living beyond their means. And maybe there's a day of realisation for these people that have borrowed a lot of money, both personally and in the business sense.
Yeah, except these are extraordinary circumstances.
They are, but it still doesn't matter,
This doesn't-
Michael, if you're not earning an income and can't pay your debts. In other words, you're living beyond your means.
You're insolvent. If this was true and SEN probably didn't, you just signed a contract with them, didn't you?
Well, I did 2 months ago.
Where would that leave you? I could be your only source of income at the minute, seeing as
No, he's not interested in money from the podcast.
No, you're not.
No,
Oh,
he said
I had
that.
a small amount of equity to hand over to you, but you're declining now? You don't
Well,
want
ask
that?
my manager. Ask the manager Scott.
I'm
So
only
where's your
quoting you
contract? Where's your
verbatim.
contract now, Mick?
Well, because they after I signed the contract, they rang me.
Did they?
Yes.
You didn't tell us this.
And said, look, we don't think that we'll be able to have you on this year.
And you said, why did you sign the contract?
No, I didn't. I would never push working for someone who didn't want me to work for them.
But you had a contract, Michael.
Yes.
Well, I know that. Was I going to fight them over what? Over 20 grand a year?
So
Oh, well, no, it depends on how well off you are, and obviously you're very well off.
No, but I mean,
20 grand you were getting, were you?
you would. I know,
You're
Sammy.
getting 500 a week to go in and speak, were you?
About that.
So Mick, why in 2 months?
More.
Why in 2 months when they signed the contract and knew they were probably a bit dusty, why would they bother signing you up?
Well, their plan was for me to go on Fridays this year with Gary Lyon
and rescue them.
and Tim Watson, as I did the previous couple of years.
Yes.
But they had a shocking ratings period in March, I reckon. It was a really disastrous ratings period for them, which, that translates into advertising.
Yes, I do.
And things have just seemed to have gone awry from there.
Well, gee whiz.
But would either of you try to enforce a contract when you knew that the station either A, didn't want you, or B, couldn't afford you?
Yeah, send the sheriff round and
You
get
would-
one of
would
their
you?
cars.
Would
Yep,
you?
Yep, send the sheriff round. No,
Donald?
of course I wouldn't.
No.
No,
Don?
of course I wouldn't. Don? You would, Don.
You know when you got the ask from
Don's
Channel
thinking
7,
about this.
did you have a contract?
Yeah.
You did. Did you try to enforce it?
No, well, they paid. No, the
they paid
contract
you out?
finished. No, the contract finished at the end of the year, at the particular season, at
So
the end
I
of that season.
noticed one of the people on there, like Jared Waitley, who has been a very good guest of ours, he said the other day that he paid tribute to a dead horse,
A dead horse.
a horse that died,
Might and power.
Might and Power.
Yeah.
And I'm only bringing this up because that's You might think that's strange. I think that's strange, but if you're a horse lover,
No, well, I understood and I appreciated that.
Good.
Because he's a horseman or
Is
racing
he?
man. He's a racing man, yeah. And Might and Power for about 2 years was the best thoroughbred in the country.
yeah, it was only the stockman's daughter, but all the horsemen knew her.
Who, the horse or the
The
stockman?
horseman knew her. Yeah, the horseman.
Oh,
yeah.
I see.
So I only bring this up because, Don, I only bring this up because.
It's funny, you know. I'm just laughing at you.
Good.
I was embarrassed when you
start.
brought up that thing last week about that Goebbels. The Goebbels?
Gerbil,
Gerbils.
yeah.
You weren't the first to bring it out, so I've got to apologise. I thought you were being rather
bring me-
provocative in bringing that thing up.
I read it out, Don.
I know, but
was
I
an
didn't.
article.
I understand, but I thought you were being very provocative.
Prerogative. Holy shit. I tell you what, you got the brains of a gerbil. Listen, fair dick of gerbil brain. Don, the reason it's like speaking to a educated ferret. I was only, Don, brought this up because I remember speaking to Bart
You
Cummings.
remember, do you?
What about the gerbil?
You remember.
Oh, he's got me rattled. I remember speaking to Bart Cummings, actually speaking to him because we bought a horse that he was trained.
Did he train?
Can you speak English?
And he was talking about a horse like Tobin Bronze or someone, and he said yes. He said, I remember that horse. It was a great athlete. And I said to the person sitting next to me, I said, horses can't be athletes.
Yes, they are.
They cannot.
They're very athletic. Horses can be very
A
athletic.
horse cannot be an athlete.
I said athletic.
No, but you said they could be an athlete, though.
Well, they are. Yes, I agree.
No, they can be athletic. I think you're right about that, but he's right.
What?
Well, then athletes
Athletes-
are people.
You can't. An animal can't be an athlete. Don, gerbil head.
I'm thinking.
I can see the wheels spinning around
can hear
behind
it,
your eyes
yeah.
there. I can hear the
They're
cogs.
skidding, are they?
So, do you think it's all right to? It's probably all right to pay tribute to a horse.
Yeah, I do because, but you're not a racing man.
Not at all.
No, so I am, and I appreciate that, and I know how good Might and Power was.
Now, look,
Sorry, you said okay.
yeah, absolutely. I've got plenty to talk.
You know
about.
who Gay Poss is? You staggered
Prince
me the other day.
Jandika.
Yeah.
Mamberti, Gay Poss.
What happened? Was it?
No, I
did you
don't
have
know.
a broken marriage at the time or something?
Therefore, I know the whole field of every Melbourne Cup winner that's ever run. Now, listen.
Yes.
I got plenty. Don.
I've got plenty of
No,
points.
you've got nothing,
I have,
Don.
look, a page.
When I asked for you to bring up a subject, we had
Hey,
3
look.
seconds of silence.
A week of sitting by myself, isolation. I've got the-
Righto. Well, I think
Yeah,
we've
yeah,
gone
good.
on. We've gone on for over.
No,
an
we
hour.
should ask him about what he's done for a week.
Righto.
absolutely nothing.
Where's our guest that we
It's
can't
all right.
name?
That person is coming.
Okay.
Go ahead, Donald.
Okay,
But let's hope it's better than the
globalisation.
Darling River and the fish.
We talk about globalisation and being more self-sufficient in Australia.
Why don't you get into subjects like farting and people who go out with one another? You go into these worldly subjects that the United Nations discuss. No one gives a fuck about it. Excuse me.
It's about time they did.
Go on then. Go on.
What, we don't care about that, do we?
Yeah, no, we
I
do.
do.
Yes, go on, Don.
For the future, that's a politician should be doing it, but they're so short.
Well, go on.
Yeah.
Regale us with it.
Well, I'm starting to a little agree with Trump in what he's saying. No, will you shut, Michael?
Well, why not? What's wrong with that? Good on you.
Thank you. There are some things that he says that are really quite relevant.
Don't roll your eyes up.
You're a socialist anyway, Joseph.
communist. Go ahead. What's he say that you agree with?
Tennis playing socialist down in Portsea. What are you doing playing tennis too? I thought you weren't allowed to.
You can play. You two people are allowed to be in the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the dimensions. You know what the dimensions of
You
a
weren't
tennis
playing
court
doubles. You weren't playing doubles.
No.
are. The dimensions of a tennis court are, Donald, 76 feet. 72 feet by 36 feet. It's
Useless
36
if-
foot. So
What?
if he is 70 feet away from his opponent
Yeah.
or his
What about if
combatant,
I've got to come in and volley?
well, then they would be at the back of the net. You both wouldn't be at the net volleying, would you?
Oh,
They'd
they
be at
could
the
be
back
if they
of
were
the
very
court.
attacking players. They would have been.
Oh, yeah. What?
How
Don,
good, how good is Ross Freer's place? The place that you tend to every week.
Well, everybody knows Ross Freer.
Yeah. How good
Righto.
is it?
Yeah, well, he looks
Don,
after it.
Don, I'm
You.
going to give you. We're winding, Mick,
I'm one of three.
Bernie and Tony Jewell.
Mick,
What?
we're winding this up. We're giving you one more chance. Quickly give us the thing that was on your mind, Don, about
Well, I've
you.
got a whole page.
Just
I
give us
can't-
one.
I've mentioned about you pulling your stomach on Instagram.
Pulling. Oh, go on. Didn't know where that was going. Go on. Quick.
Isn't it good that the political scene has
You've
both
got
parties-
nothing, have you?
Yes, I have.
You've got nothing. You're just making this up as you go.
Good to hear politicians working together for once.
Oh, another safe, soft subject. Don, we're winding
good,
this
Don.
up. It's
No good.
been fantastic. We've got a very special guest coming up.
I watched
And-
Hacksaw Ridge the other day.
Oh, did
What
you?
is that
I did.
about? Is that Clint Eastwood?
Was
did.
I,
Clint
was I
Eastwood?
on the
yeah,
money?
Yeah, it was
No.
good. I'm not a big war movie fan, but it was good. Yeah.
What about Unorthodox? Did you watch that?
Yes.
Not
I
yet,
did.
but I watched Whiplash. Have either of you
Yes,
watched
Whiplash.
How good was that?
How good was that?
Is that the Australian
you know
film?
That drumming,
No.
You know that drumming piece
Yeah.
of drumming?
Yeah.
That is a set piece. You would think that that's improvised, but that is a set piece of music, that drumming solo.
Was it?
And no one knows what we're talking about. The next one you should watch is Hidden Figures.
Yeah, I'll do that.
The English football game or the English football?
What,
About the two for professionals.
What,
Started back
English
in-
Premier League, Don?
Well, it was the start of the English Premier League back in the 1860s, 1870s.
1860s.
Wow. Can you remember that?
Yeah, I think I was at the game. Don, it's been fantastic. So we're winding it up, and our special guest is in the building.
Is he?
Where?
No, but he's coming.
Okay.
So it's Christmas.
Oh, there he is.